I want to tell you about YATL helpers. YATL helpers are helper functions in Python that help you generate by HTML for inclusion in your templates. So let me show you how they work. I go into Python and then I say import YATL, which is a template in language, and I can say import from YATL helpers import. So every HTML tag, such as div, has its corresponding helper that is called the same name as the tag but in capital letters. So the one for div is called div. How does this work? Well, I can create a div by simply writing here the content of the div. For example, if in the div there is a bit of text that says I like to learn how to code, okay, this will become the content of the div, so what is between the opening tag and the closing tag. And any attributes of the div tag, I can write them with an underscore leading them. For example, I can say that the class is equal to is text bigger, and maybe the ID is equal to div 5. Okay, so this will create my div, and when it is output in the web page, the XML method of it will be called, and the output is, you see, there is a div is the tag. Between the opening and closing tag, there is exactly what I put here. Okay, and the class with an underscore is reflected in the class here, and the ID in the ID here. Okay, you can also put many arguments in it. For example, you can say I like coffee, okay, and then you can say class is equal to, I don't know, is centered, okay, and if you do this, everything you put here is simply concatenated, in this case without spaces. So if you wanted to do it with spaces, you should have written something like this: div, and then space that joins this list of terms that is I like coffee. Okay, this will create a concatenated list with a space, so it will insert the spaces appropriately. And then you can say class is equal to is centered as before. Okay, and this will generate what you would expect. Okay, notice that these helpers are quite generic. They don't care about the class tag being a special attribute. You can say, for example, div hello, okay, and you can say blah is equal to 33, okay, and this will just generate the code with this tag blah, which is a string corresponding to 33, right? So per se, these tags don't know how the meaning of things. They just help you lay out the appropriate HTML. And the nice thing is that using them, the syntax of Python helps you with a proper enclosure. For example, if there is a div tag that inside contains an anchor tag A, well, I need to import it from YATL helpers import A. The A tag is the helper for the anchors. Now I can write div hello, and then I want to put a click here, okay? And so after this piece, I can put an anchor tag that say with a text that says click here, okay? The href is the URL to which this points, some URL, okay, and then I can say, for example, class is equal to is centered, again, just to continue the example. And so this will spit out the div tag that contains hello, comma, and then an enclosing a tag that when clicked will be a link to the URL you specified, okay? Of course, the URL, in the reality, you should generate it with the URL helper, and so we can say from py4web import URL, okay? And the complete example done in the proper way would be something like this. So this portion is the same, but the href is generated by saying that this is a some URL. Same class. Okay, and we get it generated in the appropriate way. So, so think at these divs, at these helpers, essentially as a way in Python to produce HTML code properly. They have two uses. One is to facilitate the production of HTML code, and the other one that I want to illustrate with an example in Py4web is to help you generate safe HTML. And to illustrate that, I want to move to Py4web to show you everything in action. To show you how this works, here is a simple app that is basically empty with which we can play. So we have a div class section in which we can put content, and assume I simply put a div and I say I like coffee. So if I display the page, okay, if I reload, there will be written I like coffee. So I want to do this exactly in the same way via div generated server side. So I go into the controllers here. I want you to notice that we already import some helpers, but actually let me import all of them so that I will be able to play at will. And here, instead of returning an empty dictionary, okay, I can say content is equal to a div that has as content I like coffee, okay, and I return a dictionary, content is equal to content, and then in the template I simply say put out the content variable, okay? So this will essentially take that div and print it out. So I generate again the content in Python via this div helper, and then this puts it out in the page. So let's see how this works. I need to restart Web2Py, Py4web. And once I do, if I reload, I see I like coffee without full stop. Why without full stop? Well, because I forgot a full stop here. Okay, I should have put it in. And this div helper works as before. So for example, here I can put a class is equal to has text weight bold, if I remember correctly. I need to each time restart Py4web, otherwise, the Python code doesn't change. And if I now reload the page, I see this in boldface, okay? And I can also generate the text with a link. For example, let me generate some div that contains I like coffee. Press here for 1. Okay, and here inside the div, now I put an A, which is an anchor tag, so a button essentially, that says, actually the press here for 1 should be inside the button, so this piece of text I put it here. Okay, and then I want this to be of class is equal to button, so that it will be laid out by Bulma as if it was a button. And I also want an href here. So href is the destination of the anchor, to be a URL helper that points to some other page. Okay, It doesn't matter that this URL, if I click on it, I will get an error 404, but I just want to show you how this works and what the effect is. So if I do this, if I reload the page, it takes a moment, I have too many apps, I guess. I say, I like coffee, and then press here for 1. Okay, this has become a button, and see that the destination is helpers example, which is the name of my app, and then some/other/page. So I can essentially build a URL here. And so I can build programmatically content that is then laid out in HTML in the template. This is useful if you want to programmatically build HTML and then ship it to the user. Okay, you can either include Python code in the template, using these, for example, if, as we were seeing the other in the previous lectures, and then pass to close the if and similar things. So you can either include Python into the template if you so wish, or else you can build your content programmatically using these helpers, pass it to the template in a variable, and then put it out in the template. That is the other choice. Let me do something slightly nastier or more interesting. Suppose I do div here, and the content of the div shall be I like coffee. Okay, this we have basically done already. Let's rerun Py4Web. Go to the web page, reload, and we shall see I like coffee. Great, but now let me do the following. I like coffee, and now let me replace this but with a single quotes, and here I write script, then I close the script tag, okay, and inside the two I put alert, open close the semicolon, and here I write you have been hacked. Okay, what do you expect out of this? Well, let's see. Let's restart, rerun it, and what we see? Well, it's not very surprising, right? So let's see, however, what is actually sent to the web page. Okay, so if I take this div and I cut and paste it in our console in which we were playing around, I can say this is the div.xml. So look at what happens. These open and closed greater than and smaller than signs are translated automatically by the templating mechanism into this lower than semicolon and greater than semicolon, and these quotes have been translated into quote and quote. Okay, so there is a quotation mechanism that happens automatically in the template expansion. The string that you want to be put on the screen is not transmitted in HTML as it is, but it is safe quoted. Some characters, such as this one to open the tag, this one to close the tag, and these quotation marks, are replaced by these HTML escapes in such a way that the effect visually is exactly the same. Here the string you see is exactly what you would expect, right? This string looks like this string. Okay? But even though these two strings look the same, they're not the same. This string has been encoded in such a way that it displays correctly, but it does not affect in any way the rendering of the web page. Now I want to show you that if we used another mechanism to put out the string on the page, we could actually affect the outcome of the page. So there is a special helper called XML that does not perform said quoting. And if I do this, and if I reload the page, sorry, I have to restart Py4Web each time. but if I reload the page, then I will see something different. You see? The script tag that says you have been hacked generates actually an alert, a pop-out in JavaScript that says you have been hacked, okay? So, essentially, when you send content to the browser interprets it every time. It doesn't care how it was generated. It would interpret it every time in the layout of the page. So if you send raw text to the browser, there is a danger that your text contains dangerous content such as this one that then generates an effect on your web page. For this reason, the templating mechanism automatically looks at all the text you want to include and replaces it in a safe way. So if you say div here, the content of the text will be replaced in a way that is safe. The only tag that actually lets you send raw content to the web page is the XML one that will send its content completely unchanged. With it, it carries the danger that if this string contains anything dangerous, you are sending it verbatim to the web page, and so tags are interpreted as tags. Okay? So this is a security threat. You should use this construct with extreme care, because if this string is not produced statically by you, but if this string contains anything that is user generated, the user can essentially insert appropriate HTML tags in order to subvert the working of your web page. For example, you can include an open script tag, a closed script tag, and in the between of them, arbitrary JavaScript code that will then get executed in your web page and will perhaps take secrets that you have in the page, such as your login user ID and other information that is available on the page, and perhaps ship it to an attacker site. This is called a cross-site scripting attack, the one in which user content is displayed inside a web page. And we could try to develop a site that exposes this particular vulnerability.